In this video, we'll explore media concentration and the consequences it brings to you and society. Over the last decade, media concentration has become even more prominent. The scholars in their ivory towers have been sounding the alarm bells for quite some time. They've discovered that media ownership concentration wields immense power. It's like a puppeteer controlling the strings of editorial boards and newsrooms, restricting the range of content, shoving less popular but equally important stuff to the margins, and turning the entire cultural industry into a commodified circus. Despite all this drama and danger, media ownership concentration is one of those rare beasts that's gone largely unregulated for the past 3 decades. If you thought media concentration was slowing down, think again. The numbers tell a different story. At the global, national, and local levels, media ownership concentration is increasing. The digital age hasn't saved us from this power imbalance. Instead, it's just handed over the reins to a new set of rulers. Digital communication platforms are like mirror images of the old media structures, reflecting and perpetuating the same dominance. There's a glimmer of hope on the horizon. Policy initiatives are stepping up to tackle the dark side of media ownership. The most recent alarm bells are from the United States. In the past 20 years, there has been an unparalleled surge in ownership consolidation within the realms of media and communication. This rapid consolidation unfolded as digital platform behemoths extended their dominion over global communication networks, with the internet at the forefront. The Big Five, commonly referred to as GAFAM, Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, and Microsoft, all trace their origins back to the United States. This concentration of ownership in the digital sphere has not supplanted the traditional constructs of big media, but rather exists as a parallel and influential power structure. In numerous nations, the globalization of the media industry, coupled with relaxed media regulations, has intensified concentration. Emerging commercially driven providers have effectively competed with established national media enterprises. The ongoing competition for audience reach and advertising income has promoted the prevalence of low-cost journalism at the detriment of high-quality journalism. Consequently, journalism rooted in factual reporting has been supplanted by journalism centered on grabbing attention. Few sectors rival the significance of media in terms of ownership and control, considering their pivotal role in shaping social, cultural, economic, and political landscapes. Media ownership concentration threatens national democracy for the following reasons, among others. Media concentration is likely to diminish voices and to eliminate journalistic and opinion diversity. Corporate control commands editors to follow the media owner's agenda rather than the public interest. If economically or politically beneficial, concentrated media might decide to provide one-sided political support, thereby influencing or even distorting election results. Concentrated media ownership creates the possibility of an individual decision-maker exercising enormous, unequal, and hence undemocratic, largely unchecked, potentially irresponsive power. Strong conglomerate media companies manage to influence or even determine their own regulatory framework by influencing political decision-making through editorial bias in their own corporate interest. There are a few arguments in favor of media concentration as well. Strong conglomerate media can raise and make available sufficient funds for effective investigative journalism about political power holders. Strong conglomerate media can withstand economic and political pressure and shield their newsrooms from undue interventions from outside. Given this list of potentially harmful effects, media ownership concentration is considered to be anti-democratic. It restricts political and cultural diversity, and it undermines the ability of citizens to acquire and exchange the information and ideas necessary to make informed decisions about public life. In its early stages, the internet raised lofty expectations for media diversity, offering the potential to usher in fresh entrants into the media and communication arenas. These newcomers were seen as challengers to entrenched legacy media, fostering greater media freedom and a wider range of perspectives on a global scale, despite efforts by governments and global tech platforms to control the internet. However, the internet has proven to be part of the problem, a force for concentration rather than part of the solution. The widespread dissemination of disinformation and misinformation reflects an unregulated media monopoly primarily driven by profit motives. Where traditional media outlets took decades to establish national oligopolies, digital platforms swiftly evolved into global oligopolies almost from the outset. They stand as unparalleled global behemoths with oligopolistic characteristics, marking a unique occurrence in economic history. To quantify the degree of ownership concentration, two measurements are commonly used. First, the concentration ratio, CR, sums up the market share of companies. Thus, CR4 indicates the concentration ratio of the four largest companies in the industry, with 0 to 40% representing low concentration, 40 to 70% representing medium concentration, and anything above 70% representing high concentration. Second, the Herfindahl-Hirschman Index, HHI, provides a more complete picture of concentration because it looks at the entire market by summing the squares of the market shares of all players. The concentration level based on the HHI is divided into three groups. An index value of 0 to 1,500 represents an unconcentrated market. A value between 1,500 to 2,500 represents a moderately concentrated market, and a value above 2,500 is considered evidence of a highly concentrated market. Thus, the higher the value of the HHI, the higher the owner's concentration. Based on country case studies and world statistics, researchers analyzed media ownership concentration around the world. Expressed in terms of the HHI, they found that the weighted world average for the overall media sector has increased from 3,125 in 2004 to 2005 to a very high 3,253 in 2012. For content media, the world average weighted HHI is lower at 2,219, 1,999 without internet search engines and online news. The search engine industry is the most concentrated among the media industries. When it comes to news media, they found that concentration is very high in most countries, with a world average of 5,194 when measured by attention time. Even without China, the HHI concentration scores at 3,089. On average, the national pooled CR4 for the world is almost 60%. Thus, on average, four companies control over half of national media industries combined, a strikingly high percentage largely based on the large size of platform media and their high concentration. According to researchers, such high figures characterize oligopolistic markets. All 9 countries participating in both the 2011 and 2021 research projects had high ownership concentration rates in the traditional sectors of newspapers, radio, and television in 2011 and 2021. In addition, all of the experts involved reported growing ownership concentrations in the emerging online sector. There is no mention of a decline in any of the countries studied. There are no differences between larger countries, those with more than 20 million inhabitants, and smaller ones. There is a strong correlation between regulation and concentration, so that the higher the number of media ownership rules, the lower the market concentration levels. Thus, using the example of the Netherlands, it can be shown that deregulation in 2011, where all media and cross-media ownership restrictions were abolished, media concentration has not reduced, but rather increased. Regulation or non-regulation of excessive ownership concentration is only one of many factors that may influence the market results. Country size, location, languages, GDP per capita, extent of public and government subsidies for various media genres, and the business potential of the leading news media may or may not play a role. After all, it is not enough to consider the number, but also the diversity of participants in the markets. In 2007, the existing Dutch rules were relaxed, and the maximum concentration was set at very high levels, primarily to allow domestic media companies to grow and operate in foreign markets. As of 2011, rules were completely abolished, and regulation was left to the leading corporations themselves. However, systematic monitoring could not prevent the newspaper market from being controlled by 2 foreign corporations as a result of the removal of ownership limits. The radio market suffered a similar fate. In 2017, the Dutch media company Talpa Media acquired 3 major television stations, while also owning 4 major radio stations and the nation's largest press agency, ANP. In competition with large international corporations, the domestic media industry has grown in the Netherlands, but the market is highly concentrated and liberalization has led to ownership concentrations across media. The extent to which this leads to a journalistic and democratic deficit in terms of diversity and pluralism is likely to be far more difficult to monitor than the few media owners. not only in the Netherlands, but also in other states or regions with large neighbors speaking the same language, such as Austria, Ireland, Luxembourg, Switzerland, or Wallonia. Foreign media groups play a major role. Linguistic proximity leads to widespread overspill, and the presence of foreign stations is not only competition, but also part of a welcome quality offer. For example, the German-speaking populations in Austria, Belgium, and Switzerland benefit from public and commercial broadcasting services from Germany, and the French-speaking populations in Belgium, Switzerland, and Italy from those in France. At the same time, the authorities in these regions are motivated to keep the local media industry alive, e.g., with public and state support measures, in order to ensure a minimum of local diversity. This balancing act is necessary because commercial as well as public broadcasters from France and Germany are neither mandated nor interested in nor willing to provide journalistic services for the benefit of the democratic political decision-making processes in their neighboring countries. There are no European-wide ownership rules in place to counter harmful media ownership concentration. Each member state has treated the issue separately, mostly with a deregulatory trend. The reasons for dismantling or abolishing ownership regulations include concerns about the competitiveness of domestic media providers. The deregulation trend in Europe favors the mitigation or reduction of existing regulations. This regulatory absence has left a few large communications conglomerates unhindered to expand their activities across the continent. The business design of search engines to use algorithms to direct already popular content to audiences is obviously a threat to diversity. And for smaller countries and minority languages, this information selection practice is potentially more harmful than for larger states. Google's dominance across the globe creates many possibilities for abuses of gateway monopoly power and of market power. In addition, the question of how to regulate ownership of media is always a site for controversy. Despite consistent support from the European Parliament for legislative intervention to protect media pluralism, the member states' diverse approaches to protecting media pluralism and their economic and cultural differences will likely prevent the EU from harmonizing media ownership rules in the foreseeable future. So far, however, the European Union's media policy can be regarded as a lever to promote market liberalization that would nurture European champions. Observers point out that the European Commission has been neither willing or able to achieve pan-European solutions, and there has been no interest among European decision-makers to raise the issue. A clear policy is lacking, and the European Union has been unsuccessful in implementing a harmonized framework of media ownership to guarantee the public's right to know who owns the media. Lately, however, there are indications that the European Union is seeking to play an enhanced monitoring role in the future. The On the European Democracy paper stipulates that transparency of media ownership is essential for assessing the plurality of media markets. Furthermore, the European Commission announced the effort to improve the public availability of media ownership information by co-financing a pilot project to establish a media ownership monitor, prone to be expanded to cover all member states.